Hi everyone, my name is Jason, aka Bacon Chest, coach of the Kilda Serperiors. Welcome back to Brawl for All 3. This is my round of 32 game against MegaSablo and the Houston Sableyes. So, what we're going to be doing first is going over the team matchup, then I'm going to be going over the team that I brought, and then we'll get into the game. So, looking at this team matchup, what we see first is that MegaSablo has Jirachi, Clefable, Mamoswine, Hydreigon, Raikou, Amoonguss, Pelipper, and Mega Swampert. Now, looking at that, obviously you've got the Rain team there, and this is quite a threatening team for me, because you've got Raikou, who outspeeds naturally everything on my team. You've got Pelipper plus Mega Swampert, and Pelipper with a Scarf is going to outspeed everything on my team, and Mega Swampert is going to outspeed everything on my team under the Rain. And that's a problem for me. Any other type of weather, I'm not too worried about, because Tornadus Eye can come in and have a Prankster Rain Dance, and that can sort of help me out. But in this case, obviously, that's just going to help his team. So that was a big problem. Also, I'm very light on Dark Resists, which makes Hydreigon a massive issue. And, like, my main answer to things like Jirachi and Clefable, excuse me, is Heatran, which I really just can't bring to this matchup, right? Like, it's going to get destroyed by Mamoswine, which outspeeds. It's going to get destroyed by, like, a powerful attack from Raikou, which gets outsped, and it's going to get destroyed, obviously, by Pelipper and Mega Swampert. I can't really play around that, so I can't really bring Heatran, is the first thing I noticed there. Other things to be wary of are basically setup Clefable is a massive issue, as we saw in our first game against Carney Hobo, and potentially, if I don't bring Virizion, Amoonguss could be a bit of an issue in terms of just getting a Spore off onto something. But yeah, so that's the bad news. The good news was that, as pretty much in every game, Mega Gardevoir can put in a lot of work. It's not really getting KO'd by anything on his team, aside from Jirachi, which obviously we've seen that we can play around, and we have some options for. And, you know, we've got a pretty good chance of getting spikes up with Frostlass, and if we do, that's really helpful, because most of this team is grounded, particularly things like Mega Swampert, which can be really hard to OHKO. If we can get a couple of chip spike damage off on it, then we'll be in a better position. So here's the team that I brought. So, first Mon, bringing back Choice Banded Virizion. This Mon puts in a lot of work on my opponent's team. The speed is to outspeed a max speed timid Hydreigon, which I can then destroy, obviously, with Close Combat. Close Combat and Leaf Blade, if you look at this matchup, Close Combat hits Jirachi really hard, Leaf Blade hits Clefable, they both hit Mamoswine, Close Combat hits Hydreigon, they both hit Raikou, Leaf Blade hits Pelipper pretty hard, Leaf Blade obviously destroys Mega Swampert. The only thing there is Amoonguss, so we do have Zen Headbutt there. I'm not expecting to click it, mostly because I'm not necessarily expecting Amoonguss to really come to this game. It gets, you know, wrecked by Mega Gardevoir, gets wrecked by Heatran, gets wrecked by Tornadus, so not really expecting it. And it doesn't really check Zygarde all that well, particularly because I can potentially sub up on it, and then sub Coil could really put in a lot of work. But I do have it there just in case, mostly just because I don't need any other moves. You see, I've got Quick Attack as the fourth move. I was sort of like, well, there's really no reason I would be clicking a Stone Edge. Pelipper, if its Scarf outspeeds me, if it's bulky, it takes a Stone Edge anyway, so I'm really not going to be staying in that situation. So, yeah, that's what we went with Virizion. I thought Virizion had a pretty good chance of cleaning up in this game. We've got a very bulky Slowbro. This is for a couple of things. This helps me out with a physical Jirachi, it helps me with Mamoswine, and it helps me with Mega Swampert. I didn't expect all three of those to come, but I knew at least a couple of them would, and Slowbro gives me a pretty good matchup against all of these. Grass Knot does a huge amount, even with only the 4 investment to Mega Swampert. Scald damages everything else. Toxic could let me catch things like Hydreigon on the switch in, or Pelipper, or even just if it's like a freeze-dry Mamoswine, something like that. And then Slack Off, obviously, just for recovery. If I'm facing up against something with a Life Orb, I can potentially heal up on it. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. Also pretty simple is Frostlass. Again, the speed is for Hydreigon. Will-O-Wisp to potentially hit something like a Mamoswine, Spikes, Destimon, Shadowball. To be honest, I did not expect to be clicking anything but Spikes. I really expected like a Mamoswine lead with knockoff into an Ice Shard just to try and limit me to that one layer. Although I was maybe thinking that he might try and go for Rocks on my Spike with a sort of Oblivious Mamoswine to stop me from potentially taunting, given I have run that set a couple of times, but yeah, so we didn't bother running Taunt because he has a perfect response to it in the form of Mamoswine. But I wasn't too worried about Rocks in this matchup, really. Okay, now we've got Gardevoir. This is just standard 4 attacks, Energy Ball because it can actually KO Mega Swampert, whereas Hyper Voice is doing around, I think, 60 to 65% depending on the set. Shadow Ball to hit the Jirachi Psyshock because it hits Amoonguss, and also something like an Assault Vest Raikou I thought was a pretty decent possibility, as well as it can also, if I hit Clefable and I realize, okay, this is a very specially defensive Clefable, I can then hit it on the other side. He can't invest in both. This is the problem that Carney Hobo had with his Clefable as well. He solved it by going Cosmic Power. Hopefully MegaSablo won't do the same. And yeah, then we have Tornadus. This is, I'm kind of not expecting Clefable to come to this matchup. Obviously Virizion puts in a lot of offensive pressure on it, Gardevoir puts in a lot of offensive pressure on it, but I don't necessarily have a lot for a setup Clefable. So that's kind of why we've got Tornadus here. I mean, the main reason we've got Tornadus here is for Prankster Tailwind. That lets Gardevoir potentially just come in and start taking lives. But Poisonium's the Sludge Wave could do, I think it's around 60 to 65% even to a +1, like a Calm Mind or a Cosmic Power Clefable. Dark Pulse lets us hit Jirachi really hard, which we need. And obviously Hurricane is just there to hit things like the Hydreigon, to hit things, obviously destroys the Amoonguss. We don't really have much to hit Raikou, but it doesn't really get a move to hit Raikou, really. Unless I decided to run Physical, which I didn't because I needed that Sludge Wave there. Last one we've got is just a... Oh god, did we seriously run a Zapdos with no EVs? I don't think, no, because I played this on my laptop, so I think the team actually did change slightly. Yeah, I think the team actually did change slightly, but hopefully I think it did actually have EVs by the time I played with it. Yeah, no, that's right, I do remember playing a practice game and not having those EVs. But yeah, we just ran a bulky Zapdos, with U-turn obviously to get away from the Swampert. Yeah. So, going into the match now, what we see is that we don't see the Pelipper, and that is immediately a huge win for me. I don't know why he didn't bring Pelipper in this matchup, but that's great, because now the Mega Swampert is much less of a threat. Given I only see the Raikou as something that's going to outspeed my team, I'm expecting Scarf Hydreigon, just because 98 base speed is rubbish against my team, but Scarf 98 base speed is excellent. And yeah, then I'm expecting defensive Clefable, probably a bulky Jirachi, offensive, probably Calm Mind Raikou would be what I would have expected, and then, you know, some sort of Mamoswine, maybe a lead, maybe just like a Choice Banded set, something like that. So let's see what happens. So I lead off with Frostlash, you know, pretty standard. I'm just going to get up a Spike as he goes for a T-Bolt, does about 85%, that's cool. I decided to save this because Virizion is a really safe switch in. HP Ice doesn't do all that much to me unless he's like Specs, and if he Specs then he has to click T-Bolt, so I'm not that worried. And as we've already established, Virizion puts in a number on his team, especially because we don't see that Amoonguss. Does 22% and gets a Para, and that's really unfortunate. 10% Para. This thing now no longer outspeeds Hydreigon, no longer outspeeds Mamoswine, no longer outspeeds... it may still actually outspeed Mega Swampert. It definitely still outspeeds Clefable, unless he's like max offensive. He then goes for a Volt Switch, brings out the Clefable, and I predicted this because it was the only real switch in, and I just go straight for a Leaf Blade. Choice Banded Leaf Blade does a ton, and then I get paralyzed as he gets Soft World off. So that's really annoying, because this thing still has a good amount of health right now. It can still take a hit from, like, Hydreigon's Dark Pulse. It can still take another, a couple of T-Bolts really easily. But as you can see, now what happens is I go for another Leaf Blade, and he gets to get off a Moonblast on me and do like 52%. So now this Virizion's effectively dead. I get to get my kill with Leaf Blade, which is really nice. I'm, to be honest, surprised he didn't switch there. Like, he really could have saved that, and I was pretty unlikely to save the Rizion, but cool. Brings out the Raikou, and I'm just gonna sack this off because I don't really have a good switch into Raikou, as you can see, because that was my switch in, and then it got paralyzed. I got to Gardevoir as he gets Volt Switch off. That is good knowledge, because A, it means he's not choiced. I mean, obviously we knew that already, but like, yeah, we know he's not choiced now, and we know that because of that roll, with about 35%, that he cannot KO me with a Thunderbolt. So as long as I can keep Gardevoir at that health and not let it be chipped away anymore, then we're in a pretty good position. Brings out the Jirachi, and I'm just like, okay, we've got 24% off with the Hyper Voice, which means it's a pretty defensive Jirachi. I am fairly certain at this point that he doesn't outspeed me with Jirachi, which I sort of and ah over a bit throughout this game. The calcs were a bit confusing. I wasn't quite sure what was happening with them. But yeah, I switch in on the Iron Head with Zapdos. It's obviously a very, very safe switch. He gets Toxic off as I just get Heat Wave damage. Yeah, judging by that damage, he's very, very defensive. Which is good to know, because it makes it much less of a threat to Gardevoir, because I can just Shadow Ball for about 30 or 40%. I bring Gardevoir back out on the Swampert, and again, goes for the Jirachi. Now, I look at that and say, cool, he's at 29. I decided to switch out there back into Zapdos, even though Shadow Ball would have killed, just in case he did outspeed. I couldn't quite figure out exactly what his set was from the calcs. I don't know if I was doing something wrong at the time or something, but basically I just didn't want to risk it when I have obviously a very, very safe switch in Zapdos. He actually goes out to Hydreigon here, and this actually works out pretty well. Because Shadow Ball wouldn't have done anything to Hydreigon, and now Zapdos can actually take a hit from it, so that's actually alright. As we go for the U-turn, we get off good chip, which is quite nice, and this is the point of the game where I realised that, wow, I have absolutely nothing for a Scarf Hydreigon, because my switch would have been Virizion, and Virizion's gone, so I know right now that I have to sack Thundurus, but I know Dark Pulse isn't going to kill me, so I decide to get off really good damage with Hurricane. We don't quite KO, I don't know if that was a roll or not, but, you know, not a big deal. As we then go a Tailwind, and now we get to put in some huge work with Gardevoir, because I just get to click Hyper Voice, he's got nothing to switch into this. Goes out to Swampert, and I'm just like, cool, I'm just going to click Hyper Voice again, because it KOs from that range. As he sacks off Jirachi, that's fine, brings back in Swampert and Mega Evolves, and I'm like, cool, I can just click Hyper Voice again. And now we run out of Tailwind, and so now it's very, very close, because he's got Mamoswine and the Raikou, and that Raikou is a problem, because it can potentially crit my Gardevoir and get rid of it, and it outspeeds the rest of my team, and obviously it, yeah, KOs the rest of these mons. I switch out here into Frostlass just to sack it off. He actually goes for an Ice Shard, and leads me to believe he's, he's Life Orb, which means that Ice Shard doesn't KO Gardevoir. Realistically, this made no real difference, the fact that it got disabled. I obviously have a very safe switch in Slowbro. Slowbro would come in, click Scald, kill the Mamoswine, and then Raikou would come in and we'd be in the same situation regardless, because Raikou would KO my Slowbro. If he tried to set up, I'm going to break a sub with a Scald. He could maybe have Calm Minded, but Calm Mind's not going to make a difference after a Scald to whether or not Psyshock KOs at this range. So yeah, basically it just sped up the game, because it meant that now I just bring in Gardevoir, I kick Hyper Voice, Mamoswine dies, so he says yeah, it cancels out the power. I don't think it does personally, but you know, it was a little bit of hacks in my favour. Would have, given that differential doesn't matter at this point, wasn't a huge deal. And so basically at this point I have the game won. Hyper Voice 100% kills from this range, unless, yeah, basically the only thing you can do is crit or para me, and as you can see, he does para me, I get fully paralyzed, and that's game over. And yeah, I was pretty salty about this one, to be honest. I thought I played that really well. I thought that I, like, got over the hacks at the start of the game, and really worked around what was a pretty bad matchup. But yeah, that's just the way things go sometimes. And so yeah, so that ends our Brawl for All run, unfortunately, at the round 32. This tournament's actually over now at the time I'm recording this, and it actually turned out that MegaSablo went on to win this game, so congratulations to the MegaSablo and the Houston Sableyes. Thank you to Johnny GB for running an excellent tournament. I know there was a lot of, bit of confusion, a bit of like scheduling issues and that kind of thing, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun for my first kind of tournament/league experience. It's quite good. So what's coming next? We're going to be we've actually joined up to a couple of other leagues, so I'm going to be uploading content for those. So until next time, peace.